where your scent feels like home. Fuin Kittysack had always been the perfect alpha. He was handsome, intelligent, calm, and responsible, exactly what his family expected from the heir of the Kittysack family. Everyone believed he was born to lead, protect Omegas, and become a successful businessman. No one knew that behind his perfect smile, Fuin was exhausted. He hated endless meetings, family expectations, and especially the idea of being forced to marry an Omega. What he truly wanted was simple: to sleep late, travel, have fun, and live without having to please everyone. Sometimes, he even dreamed about disappearing for a few days and turning off his phone so nobody could ask him to do anything. But every morning, he put on the same perfect smile and returned to being the person everyone wanted him to be. One evening, his father invited him to a business dinner. The moment Fuin arrived, he realized it was actually a matchmaking dinner. Across the table sat a handsome Omega named Iden. Iden smiled at him constantly, complimenting his appearance and education. At first, Fuin politely answered everything, but then Iden became bolder. Under the table, he deliberately touched Fuin's leg. Fuin immediately moved away, disgusted, but he forced himself to smile because his father was watching. He did not want another argument at home, so he simply endured it. Across the table, Pond. Naravit noticed everything. Pond was an enigma, powerful, wealthy, and feared because of his connections to the criminal world. He looked like a perfect businessman in public, but people who knew him understood that he was capable of doing almost anything. Pond also had one problem: he could barely sleep. Yet tonight, he was more interested in Fuin. Everyone saw a perfect alpha. Pond saw the tired eyes behind the smile and the way Fuin's fingers tightened around his glass whenever someone touched him. Unable to stay any longer, Fuin excused himself and secretly went to the rooftop. He leaned against the railing and finally let himself cry. He took out a small bottle of sanitizer and carefully cleaned every place Iden had touched. His hands trembled as he whispered, "I hate this." Pond followed him and watched silently from behind the door. Under the rooftop lights, Fuin looked completely different. His dark hair had become messy from the wind, a few strands falling naturally over his forehead. His sharp jaw, straight nose, and elegant features made him look almost unreal, while his long lashes trembled with every tear. His usually confident eyes were red and wet, and his lips were pressed tightly together as he tried not to make a sound. To everyone else, Fuin was a strong alpha who needed no protection. To Pond, he suddenly looked like someone who had been carrying too much for too long. For the first time, Pond wanted to protect someone without expecting anything in return. When Fuin suddenly noticed him, he turned around angrily. "Who's there?" Pond stepped out of the shadows and walked closer with a teasing smile. "So the perfect young master has this side too?" Fuin's face immediately became embarrassed. "Stay away from me." He pushed Pond away and quickly left the rooftop. Pond did not follow. He simply touched the place where Fuin had pushed him and noticed a warm scent remaining in the air. Sandalwood. The scent was soft and strangely calming, making Pond's tense body relax for a moment. That night, Fuin searched Pond online. He found pictures of Pond traveling, driving expensive cars, partying, laughing with friends, and living without caring what anyone thought. It was exactly the kind of freedom Fuin secretly wanted. He stared at Pond's picture for a long time, wondering how someone could live so freely. "What an annoying man," he whispered. Then he looked at the picture again and sighed. "But he's annoyingly handsome." Meanwhile, Pond was lying awake in his room as usual, unable to sleep. Yet for the first time in years, he could still remember one scent clearly: sandalwood. And somehow, he already knew he wanted to smell it again. The next afternoon, Fuin walked out of university hoping to spend the rest of the day alone. He had already told his driver not to pick him up because he wanted to walk home and enjoy some quiet time. But the moment he reached the school gate, he stopped. A bright red Porsche was parked directly in front of the university, attracting everyone's attention. Fuin frowned. "What kind of idiot parks here?" Suddenly, the roof opened, and Pond appeared behind the wheel, wearing sunglasses and a lazy smile. "Fuin!" he shouted loudly. Several students turned to look at them. Fuin covered his face for a second. "Why are you here?" Pan smiled. "To pick you up. I didn't ask you to." "I know." "Then go away." "No." Pan opened the passenger door. "Get in." Fuin stared at him. "You're unbelievable. I've heard that before." After a few minutes of arguing, Fuin finally got into the car, just to escape the curious eyes around them. Pan drove him to a small restaurant hidden in an old street, instead of one of the expensive places Fuin was used to. The food was simple but surprisingly delicious. Pan watched as Fuin slowly forgot his worries and began eating happily. "You like it," Pan said. "It's okay," Fuin replied, even though his plate was almost empty. Pan laughed. "You're terrible at lying." After lunch, Pan took him to an arcade. Fuin complained that he was not a child anymore, but only 20 minutes later, he was laughing while playing a racing game. When he finally defeated Pan, he raised his arms proudly. "I won." Pan stared at the screen. "You cheated. You just lost." Pan laughed. He liked seeing Fuin like this. There was no perfect smile, no careful behavior, and no pressure in his eyes. He was simply enjoying himself. After that day, Pan started appearing in Fuin's life more often. Sometimes he waited outside university. Sometimes he brought food. Sometimes he drove Fuin around the city at night with no destination. Fuin slowly discovered that Pan was very different when they were alone. The dangerous enigma everyone feared became strangely patient and easygoing around him. Pan listened when Fuin complained about university, remembered his favorite drinks, and never forced him to talk about things he didn't want to discuss. Most importantly, Pan never expected him to be perfect. One evening, Fuin stayed at Pan's house until late. They were sitting on the sofa when Pan suddenly admitted that he had trouble sleeping. "I've had insomnia for years," he said. "Sometimes I stay awake until morning." Fuin looked concerned. "You should take better care of yourself." Pan smiled. "You sound like my doctor." "I'm serious." "I know." Later that night, Fuin accidentally fell asleep beside him. The faint scent of sandalwood filled the room. Pan closed his eyes, expecting another sleepless night. But something strange happened. His body relaxed almost immediately. His breathing became slow, and for the first time in years, he slept deeply without waking up. When he opened his eyes the next morning, Fuin was still sleeping beside him. Pan stared at him in disbelief. "I actually slept." Fuin slowly opened his eyes. "Really?" Pan nodded. "I haven't slept that well in years." Fuin smiled sleepily. "Maybe you're just tired." Pan shook his head. "No, it's you." Fuin's face immediately turned red. "Don't say weird things in the morning." Pan laughed. As their relationship grew closer, something unusual began happening between their pheromones. Fuin's sandalwood scent became stronger whenever Pan was near, while Pan's enigma pheromones became calmer around Fuin. Their bodies seemed to recognize each other before either of them understood what it meant. Sometimes Fuin would fall asleep against Pan's shoulder, and Pan would quietly stay still for hours so he would not wake him. Other times, Pan would come home exhausted, and Fuin would simply sit beside him until his breathing became calm. Neither of them said they were in love, but their actions had already answered that question. One evening, they stood together on Pan's balcony, watching the city lights. Pan looked at Fuin for a long moment. "Why are you staring?" Fuin asked. "Because you're beautiful." Fuin looked away, pretending not to care. "You probably say that to everyone." Pan smiled. "No, only you." Fuin's heart beat faster, and he hated that Pan could notice it. But he did not move away when Pan gently took his hand. For the first time, Fuin felt that he could be tired without being judged, silent without explaining himself, and happy without worrying about anyone else's expectations. Unfortunately, that happiness did not last. A few days later, his father called him home. When Fuin entered the living room, his father was waiting with a serious expression. "You are going to marry Aiden," he said. Fuin's smile disappeared. "No," his father frowned. "This is not a discussion." Fuin took a deep breath. For years, he had always obeyed, but this time, he remembered Pan's words. "You don't have to be perfect with me." He slowly raised his eyes. Then this is the first time I'm going to disobey you. His father's face immediately darkened, and Fuin realized that choosing his own happiness might come with a price. Fuin had never openly disobeyed his father before, and the anger in the man's eyes made the room feel colder. You will marry Den, his father repeated. Fuin clenched his hands. No, I don't love him, and I won't marry someone just because our families want it. His father's face darkened. You are an alpha. You have responsibilities. I've spent my whole life doing everything you wanted. Fuin shouted. I studied what you wanted, became the person you wanted, and protected this family. What else do you want from me? His father answered with a slap. Fuin's face turned to the side, his cheek burning. Before he could react, his father ordered someone to lock him in his room and took away his phone. For hours, Fuin sat silently on the floor. He was angry, hurt, and most of all, lonely. He wanted to call Pond, but there was no way to reach him. Finally, he looked toward the window. It was dangerous, but staying there felt even worse. Fuin climbed down and escaped into the night. Rain had already begun falling when he reached the street. Without thinking, he ran straight to Pond's house. He just wanted to see him. He wanted to hear his voice and feel safe again. When the door finally opened, however, Fuin froze. A beautiful woman stood there wearing a silk robe. Who are you? Fuin asked. The woman looked at him with amusement. Who are you? Where is Pond? He's not here. Fuin stared at her. Then why are you here? She smiled. He paid me to come. Fuin's heart dropped. What? She laughed softly. Don't look so surprised. Pond likes beautiful people. Maybe you're just another one of them. That's not true. How do you know? She asked. Maybe you're only part of his collection. Fuin could not listen anymore. He stepped backward, his eyes filling with tears. He had trusted Pond more than anyone, and now he felt like a fool. Without saying another word, he turned around and walked into the rain. The water quickly soaked through his clothes, but he kept walking. Tears mixed with the rain on his face. That night, Fuin decided he would never contact Pond again. Meanwhile, Pond knew nothing about what had happened. When he returned home, he immediately noticed that something was wrong. He checked the security cameras and discovered that his cousin had entered the house while he was away. The same woman had been there with him. Pond's expression became dangerously cold. He immediately called his cousin, but it was too late. Fuin had already disappeared. Pond called him again and again. No answer. He went to the university. Fuin refused to meet him. He waited outside places they used to visit, but Fuin never came. The more Fuin avoided him, the more Pond realized how much he had become attached to him. His insomnia returned, worse than before. He could no longer sleep without the familiar scent of sandalwood. Weeks later, Pond was sitting in his office when the television suddenly showed Fuin's face. The news announced his upcoming marriage to Den. Pond froze. His glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. He's getting married? He whispered. Anger and fear filled his chest. He could not accept it. Soon, Fuin was taken to a quiet house outside the city. When the cloth covering his eyes was removed, Pond was standing in front of him. Why did you agree to marry him? Pond demanded. Fuin stared at him with disbelief. You kidnapped me, and you're asking me that? Pond stepped closer. I waited for you. I searched everywhere, and now you're marrying him? Fuin's eyes filled with anger. You have no right to ask me. Pond froze. Fuin finally told him everything. I went to your house that night. I needed you, but another woman opened your door and told me you had paid her to be there. She said you did this all the time. She said I was just another person in your collection. Pond's expression slowly changed. She said that? Fuin nodded, tears falling from his eyes. I believed you were different. I trusted you, and you made me feel like an idiot. Pond immediately took out his phone and called his cousin. After a short conversation, the truth became clear. His cousin had secretly used Pond's house and brought the woman there. He had paid her to lie because he thought it would be funny. Pond's hand tightened around the phone. He was furious, but when he looked back at Fuin, all he could see was the pain he had caused without even knowing it. Pond slowly walked toward him and stopped. He did not touch him. Fuin, His voice was quieter now. I swear to you, never knew. Fuin looked away. How am I supposed to believe you? Pond had no answer. For the first time, the powerful enigma understood that money, influence, and fear could not fix broken trust. Then Pond remembered something from years ago, something he had never told anyone. A rainy night, a young boy, blood on the road, and a faint scent of sandalwood. He looked at Fuin again, his eyes slowly widening. Wait, Pond whispered. Could it really be you? Pond stared at Fuin as an old memory suddenly returned. Years ago, before he became one of the most feared enigmas in the city, Pond had been attacked by his enemies during a storm. He was badly injured and lost so much blood that he could barely stay conscious. He remembered running through the rain before finally collapsing beside a quiet road. He thought he was going to die. Then a high school student found him. The boy was frightened, but instead of running away, he knelt beside Pond and called an ambulance. He kept talking to him while waiting, telling him to stay awake. Pond could barely remember his face, but he remembered one thing clearly: the soft scent of sandalwood. When Pond woke up in the hospital, the boy was gone. For years, he had tried to find him, but he had only a few memories. Now, standing in front of Fuin, he suddenly understood. It was you, Pond whispered. Fuin looked confused. Pond stepped closer, but stopped when he saw the fear in Fuin's eyes. Years ago, during a storm, you saved a wounded stranger. That stranger was me. Fuin's expression changed. A faint memory returned. A man covered in blood, rain falling around them, his own hands shaking as he tried to keep the stranger awake. I remember, Fuin whispered. Pond's eyes became wet. I've been looking for you ever since. Fuin looked at him in disbelief. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know it was you. Pond lowered his head. I only realized after you told me about that night. He then slowly untied Fuin's hands. I'm sorry for bringing you here like this. I was angry and scared when I saw the news. I thought you had chosen someone else. Fuin rubbed his wrists. You should have asked me instead of kidnapping me. Pond gave a bitter smile. You're right. For once. The powerful enigma did not argue. I was wrong. Fuin looked at him. You really are an idiot. Pond nodded. I know. He took a breath. But I need you to know something else. I'm not a good man, Fuin. I've done terrible things. I've hurt people, fought people, and lived a life where I thought power could solve every problem. I never cared about relationships because I thought everyone would eventually leave. He looked directly into Fuin's eyes. Then you came into my life, and suddenly, I wanted someone to stay. Fuin remained silent. Pond continued. I know I don't deserve your trust yet. I know I hurt you, even if it wasn't intentional. But I don't want to control you anymore. If you still want to marry Aiden, I won't stop you. Fuin looked surprised. You won't? Pond shook his head. No, your life belongs to you. Those words touched something inside Fuin. His entire life, people had made decisions for him. His father had decided what kind of alpha he should become. His family had decided whom he should marry. But Pond was finally giving him a choice. Fuin slowly stepped closer. I don't want to marry Aiden. Pond's eyes widened. Then why did you agree? Because I thought you didn't want me. His voice became softer. After that night, I thought I had been foolish for trusting you. My father kept pressuring me, and I was too tired to fight everyone. Pond's expression filled with regret. Fuin looked down. I wanted to see you again. Pond reached out, but stopped before touching him. Can I? Fuin hesitated before giving a small nod. Pond gently touched his hair. The familiar sandalwood scent immediately filled the room. Pond closed his eyes and breathed slowly. The tension in his body disappeared almost instantly. Fuin noticed and smiled faintly. Still can't sleep without me? Pond smiled. Not very well. Fuin laughed softly for the first time in weeks. You're hopeless. Pond gently pulled him into a hug. This time, Fuin did not push him away. He rested his forehead against Pond's shoulder and finally allowed himself to relax. The misunderstanding had not disappeared completely, and the wounds between them would take time to heal. But something important had returned their trust. Later that night, Pond took Fuin home safely. Before Fuin left the car, Pond looked at him seriously. I won't force you to choose me, Fuin looked at him. But if I choose you? Pond smiled. Then I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. Fuin's cheeks became warm. He opened the door, then stopped. Pond. Don't let another woman open your door again. Pond laughed. Never. Fuin finally smiled and walked away. Pond watched him disappear behind the gate. For the first time in weeks, he felt hopeful. The boy from the rainy night had finally returned to him. And this time, Pond promised himself that he would never let him disappear again. The next morning, Fuin woke up with a strange feeling in his chest. For the first time in a long time, he did not feel trapped by the future. He still had to face his father, his family, and the marriage that had been planned for him. But this time, he knew what he wanted. When he returned home, his father was already waiting. The wedding preparations have started, he said coldly. Fuin looked at him and calmly replied, stop them. His father stared at him. What did you say? I won't marry Aiden. You dare disobey me again? Fuin took a deep breath. His hands were shaking, but his voice remained steady. I've spent my whole life trying to become the perfect son. I did everything you asked because I thought that was what love meant. But I'm tired, Dad. I want to live for myself now. His father became furious. But this time, Fuin did not lower his head. He walked out of the house without looking back. Outside, Pond was waiting for him. He had promised not to interfere, so he stayed inside the car and let Fuin make the decision himself. When Fuin opened the door, Pond looked at him carefully. Are you okay? Fuin nodded. I told him no, Pond smiled. I'm proud of you. Fuin sat beside him and quietly leaned against his shoulder. I'm scared. Pond wrapped an arm around him. You don't have to be fearless. I'll be here, Fuin smiled. From that day on, they stopped running from their feelings. They began spending more time together, not because Pond was chasing him or because Fuin needed somewhere to escape, but because they genuinely wanted to be together. They went on late night drives, ate at small restaurants, watched movies at home, and sometimes spent entire afternoons doing nothing. For Fuin, those simple moments were more valuable than all the expensive things his family had ever given him. Pond also changed. The man who once lived recklessly began taking better care of himself. He drank less, worked more carefully, and stopped bringing strangers into his private life. His friends noticed the change immediately. You really changed because of one alpha? One of them teased. Pond only smiled. He's not just one alpha. At night, Fuin often slept beside him. The strange bond between their pheromones became stronger with time. Pond's enigma scent became calm whenever Fuin was near, while Fuin's sandalwood scent seemed to wrap around Pond like warmth. For the first time in years, Pond could sleep peacefully. One night, Fuin woke up and found Pond sleeping deeply beside him. He smiled and whispered, "You really needed me that badly?" Pond, still half asleep, pulled him closer. "Always." Fuin laughed quietly and closed his eyes again. A few months later, they returned to the rooftop where they had first met. The city lights were shining below them, and the night breeze gently moved through Fuin's hair. Pond looked at him and smiled. "Do you remember this place?" "Unfortunately, you cried here." Fuin looked embarrassed. "Don't remind me." Pond laughed softly. "I thought you were the strongest person I'd ever seen. And now?" Pond stepped closer. "Now, oh, you don't have to be strong all the time." Fuin looked at him. Pond gently touched his cheek. "You can be tired. You can cry. You can ask for help. You can be selfish sometimes. You can simply be Fuin." Fuin's eyes became wet, but this time, he smiled through the tears. "You know, you're surprisingly good at saying things like that." "I practiced." "With who?" Pond smiled. "No one. You're the first person I've ever wanted to say them to." Fuin quietly hugged him. Pond held him close, breathing in the familiar sandalwood scent that had once saved his life, and now gave him peace. Their relationship was not perfect. Pond still had a dangerous world around him, and Fuin still had a complicated family. There would be arguments, difficult days, and problems they could not solve overnight. But they had learned something more important than perfection. They had learned to choose each other freely. Years ago, a frightened high school student had saved an injured stranger during a storm. Years later, that stranger found him again and became the person who taught him how to rest. Fuen had once believed that being an alpha meant carrying everyone's expectations on his shoulders. Pond taught him that he could put them down. Pond had once believed that power could protect him from loneliness. Fuen taught him that sometimes, all a person needed was someone who stayed. As the wind grew colder, Pond took off his jacket and placed it around Fuen's shoulders. "Let's go home." Fuen looked at him and smiled. "Our home?" Pond raised an eyebrow. "Did you just say our home?" Fuen immediately turned away. "I said nothing." Pond laughed and took his hand. "Too late. I heard it." They walked away together under the quiet night sky, their hands tightly connected. The alpha who had spent his whole life pretending to be perfect had finally found a place where he could rest. And the enigma who had spent years unable to sleep had finally found the scent that made him feel safe. It was not a perfect love story. It was better than that. It was theirs. And after all the rain, misunderstandings, fear, and loneliness, Fuen finally understood what home truly meant. It was not a house, a family name, or a perfect life. It was the person beside him who made him feel that he could finally breathe. For Pond, that person was Fuen. And for Fuen, it was Pond. Their story had begun with a rainy night, continued with the scent of sandalwood, and finally ended where both of them had always wanted to be together, by choice, and at home in each other's arms.
The end. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to support me and motivate me to create more videos.